chanting, crying, cheering, confronting.
Don't accept facts!
On June 24th, 2022, thousands flooded the streets in major US cities, some in shock and others rejoicing. The overturning of Roe v. Wade by the US Supreme Court, which had upheld the constitutional right to abortion for almost 50 years. For decades, ideology of reproductive rights has been integrated in US foreign policy. Countries depending on foreign aid for their healthcare system are looking to the donors for guidance on sexual and reproductive practice. What does this drastic shift mean for many African countries, where cultural and religious traditions clash with the reality of widespread underage and unwanted pregnancies, sometimes by rape or incest? In practice, will this law end safe abortions and force the operations to go underground and potentially cause more harm? We'll discuss this and more on this edition of Our Voices. Hello, I'm Dimyake Mwakalielier, and this is Our Voices. On today's program, we look at reproductive rights with regards to abortion and how the overturning of Roe v. Wade by the US Supreme Court may now influence African countries' legal approach to the practice. On a programming note, today's show may not be appropriate for younger viewers due to sensitive content, so viewers' discretion is advised. Also, please keep in mind, the Voice of America does not support one view over the other. The right of American women to have an abortion was immediately rolled back for nearly half the US states now that America's highest court has reversed its 1973 decision on the procedure. VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias spoke to activists on 3 continents and found serious concerns about what the US ruling overturning Roe v. Wade could have around the world.
Who else is angry? Yeah!
It started before they were born, but now young people in the US are joining the abortion rights debate full throttle.
No uterus! No baby! This is not only going to affect the women who are getting pregnant now, it's going to affect the women getting pregnant in the future, and it's going to affect all future generations.
Also among the young are those who condemn abortion. They are energized.
And we're able to send the issue of abortion back to the states and really start hitting the issue of abortion in our local communities.
Could other countries follow? The world is watching closely.
When the United States takes such a bold and obvious anti-rights movement, other countries find cover in that. They use that as cover for then the anti-rights work that they do, specifically, but not exclusively, around reproductive rights and the right to abortion.
Globally, 970 million women live in countries that broadly allow abortion, according to the US-based Center for Reproductive Rights. Still, 2 in 5 women of childbearing age who want or need an abortion face restrictions.
A mujer alguna?
Mexico's High Court ruled last year to decriminalize abortion, but only 8 of Mexico's 32 states have taken steps to legalize it. What is happening in the U.S. is a warning sign, say Mexican backers of abortion rights.
What the U.S. is teaching us is that our rights are always at risk, given that political environments could change. Anti-rights groups are always trying to come up with strategies to block access to women's rights.
In Geneva, Switzerland, reproductive rights advocates aren't too worried about repercussions in Europe, where abortion is broadly permitted.
Poland, Malta, Liechtenstein, Andorra, and Monaco are the 5 countries in Europe that still retain what we call highly restrictive abortion laws. My view is that the trend will remain overwhelmingly positive in terms of moving to recognition of abortion as essential health care.
In Africa, only a few countries allow abortion upon request. One is South Africa, which legalized abortion in 1996. But opposition to reproductive rights could grow there with a U.S. reversal.
In some of our facilities, there are people outside protesting, trying to prohibit the women from going into our facilities. The more that it is reversed in other countries, then the same will apply in South Africa, because people will just become bolder.
The World Health Organization says restricting abortion doesn't stop it, and that 23,000 women die each year from complications after unsafe abortions. Anti-abortion groups we interviewed dispute that argument.
Most people don't understand how truly radical the American abortion laws are. We would hope that this would have an impact around the world, because when governments do tend to change their laws, they often cite American law.
The way to compromise here is to help women get through their pregnancies by providing them with housing, with medical care that they need, with formula, clothing, and all of that.
Veronica Valderas Iglesias for VOA News, Washington.
In 2003, the African Union adopted the Maputo Protocol, a women's right charter in which Article 14 states that abortion must be legal to save a woman's life and preserve her physical or mental health, and in cases of rape, incest, and grave fetal anomaly. Almost identical to President Joe Biden's recent executive order to protect access to reproductive health care services. In Africa, of the 54 countries, only 4 nations currently have liberalized abortion laws: South Africa, Mozambique, Cape Verde, and Tunisia. Among the rest of the nations, the levels of abortion restrictions vary considerably, from reforming their laws to meeting these minimum criteria. They include Benin, Cape Verde, South Africa, Tunisia, Mozambique, Sao Tome and Principe, and Angola. Elsewhere, in countries like Senegal, Sudan, and Nigeria, the practice is illegal, even in the most extreme circumstances, and can get a person jailed for 14 years. So we hit the streets of Lagos to get opinions on abortion rights and how the U.S. Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade may impact women's reproductive rights. Here's what they had to say in our Your Voice segment.
Why will you go and commit abortion? Why will you kill? Abortion is murder to me. So why killing? If you know you don't want the child, why going into such a thing for you to get pregnant at the first time?
But if you now talk of the area of maybe the pregnancy is putting the woman at risk, maybe that is on health ground, yes, that can be done. Her, as a person, I believe that God understand that.
A family that goes to sleep and they get robbed by armed robbers, and they not only rob, they rape their daughter. Now, the daughter finds out that she's pregnant, her dreams shattered, education to a halt. I think there are many reasons why she should opt for that option.
It's a no-no. I have 2 principles why I say it's a no-no. The act of sex, as it were, either by fornication or by marital blessing, is what may be prohibited. But the child pregnancy is a blessing by all standards.
It's going to encourage a lot of premarital sex. As adults, you know, I think as an adult there are protective measures for this, for unwanted pregnancy. So I don't see any need for people to allow themselves to get pregnant, unwanted pregnancy. And at the end of the day, you want to abort it. It's not nice.
Women should have the entire and sole right to be able to choose for themselves what they want, either to abort or to keep the baby.
What are your thoughts? Share your views on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook at VOA Africa and Instagram and Twitter at VOA Our Voices. We are also on WhatsApp. Our number is on your screen. It's time for a break. When we return, we'll introduce you to an advocate and an opponent of abortion rights in Kenya and hear their views on how the landmark ruling in the US may impact women in their nation. We'll be right back.
Empowerment, and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science and technology.
City, rural, educated or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices.
Welcome back. You're with Our Voices. Activists on both sides of abortion laws have raised concerns about the U.S. Supreme Court's decision overturning the right to abortion, saying it may have a domino effect in developing countries, including across Africa. In Kenya, anti-abortion groups have been welcoming the reproductive health of women and girls. Juma Majanga reports from Nairobi, Kenya.
Anti-abortion groups in mainly Christian Kenya celebrated the U.S. Supreme Court's overturning of the right to abortion in June, calling it a divine intervention.
Abortion is murder, and the abortionists are also murderers. So when I see that the Supreme Court is choosing life, that is the way to go.
Kenya has upheld the right to abortion, but only for health reasons, leading many women to seek unsafe, illegal abortions on demand. After watching her friend bleed to death from one such abortion in Nairobi, 20-year-old Diana, not her real name, sought professional help when she wanted an abortion.
I went to a good clinic and the doctor took me through the process. Now I'm fine, as you can see. I'm all well. I'm healthy and I don't have any complications.
But like many abortion rights supporters in Africa, Diana worries the U.S. top courts overturning the abortion right could encourage more legal restrictions in Kenya and lead to more deaths. The World Health Organization says 75% of abortions in Africa are unsafe. Kenya's Ministry of Health estimates 2,600 women and girls die each year from complications related to unsafe abortions. That is 35% of all maternal deaths.
There is a high rate of maternal deaths resulting due to unsafe abortions because these women are denied the right to have the safe abortion services.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump restricted funding to developing countries' reproductive health as part of the so-called gag rule against abortion. Abortion rights campaigners say that was the first sign that more action will be needed to protect the right at home.
While the U.S. has been very generous in supporting our health systems, we must be more proactive ourselves and have the right laws, the right practices that favor access to reproductive health, including abortion care.
Kenya has gradually liberalized its abortion laws to allow, in 2019, termination for sexual violence. A judge ruled in March this year that abortion care is a constitutional right and even cited the U.S. Supreme Court Roe v. Wade decision that was then overturned in June. That ruling is being challenged, and Kenya's abortion rights advocates worry the U.S. change in law might affect the final decision. Juma Majanga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Let's now introduce you to two abortion rights proponents based in Kenya who have very contrasting positions. We begin with Anne Kioko, Africa Campaigns Manager for Citizen Go.
So we were among those who are praying for it to be overturned. And it's a dream come true. It's a prayer come true to see that the judges can just do what could have been done 50 years ago. So many babies have been lost in those 50 years. They have been massacred. And we are thankful that some courageous judges.
I was reading some statistics by the United Nations Population Fund, and it was saying that 60% of all pregnancies around the world are unintended. Repercussions, or what normally tends to happen, is that people seek abortion as a result of that. And as they seek abortion, 45% of all those abortions are very unsafe. I guess that's in a nutshell saying that even though these laws are being overturned and passed restricting abortion, abortion is still happening in dark alleys, in backstreet corners. So the woman's life and health is at stake. How do you respond to that?
Nimiake, UNFPA is part of those organizations that are in the agenda. And once you see, when you connect abortion as an agenda and as an industry, you see it clearly that there are players in it. It's like a market. There are suppliers, there are shopkeepers, there are those who are manufacturing, and every abortion costs money. There's no free abortion in this world. Even when they're trying to say, no, we are promoting safe abortion, it is a money-making industry globally. So when we say that abortions are still happening, I'm like, okay, fine. Robbery is still happening today. Why are we not legalizing robbery? Instead, what we should be looking at in the Miyake and every other person in the globe is what is causing this abortion. I mean, what is causing these pregnancies? What is causing pregnancies within teenagers? And we should address the root causes, which is premarital acts that are not within the marriage institution. And we should now teach our young ones. We should use our media, which is being used negatively. Once we teach our young ones, be responsible. Every act has a consequence. Then we are going to solve all these kind of crises.
So where do you place the women who are seeking the services? Because I hear you saying a lot of the times that it's a business and all these people are making money. But are you saying that there are no women who voluntarily seek abortion and want safe abortions?
Most women who have gone for abortion on demand, they have not first been cancelled. And I need to know those hospitals who offer abortions that cancel their clients out first. That they have told them, these are the risks. This is, you're going to be killing your child. There's a possible death. You're going to maybe become infertile later. There are those consequences of abortion. And today we are dealing with such kind of women, many women who have procured abortion on demand, and they are dealing with the consequences later. And they're regretting the action. And they're telling other women, do not do this. It is bad. And until we give these women voices to educate the society, we're going to be running for the shortcuts.
What is your overall thinking about the number of countries on the continent that are either relaxing their abortion laws or now there is a movement towards that? And what are your thoughts on that?
First, let me speak about Africa, where I am right now. Africa is for life. Interacting with the people in the grassroots, you'll find that everyone abhors abortion because this is the murder of a child. It's the murder of a person. And statistics are also quite clear. In Kenya recently, we had a survey by Ipsos, and they said 85% of Kenyans are against abortion. Once you look into these bills that are being pushed in parliament, there's some people, there's some hands, the colonial hands that are there. And they're benefiting themselves because they're working together with all these entities I've mentioned that are benefiting from abortion.
We also spoke with pro-choice advocate Martin Onyango, head of legal strategies for Africa at the Center for Reproductive Rights.
The decision that overturned Roe v. Wade came as a shocker. It came as a big disappointment for the reproductive rights movement. And for me, I was appalled at how shaky protection of fundamental rights to access healthcare, in particular access to safe abortion, can with the stroke of a pen. While the fall of Roe v. Wade in the United States has no legal implication on the African continent, but we know it has given energy and buoyed opposition groups. Another concern is when the strongest foundation on access to abortion in America has fallen, governments that have been slow and willing to make progress on access to abortion in Africa have got, a reassurance or a basis to continue with their intransigence, to continue with their attempts to deny women access to abortion care in Africa.
Now, speaking about Africa, the laws are already pretty restrictive when it comes to access to abortion. A handful of countries really legalized it, and in many countries, it's still an issue under discussion. What is the premise that you can understand or elaborate on why that still is?
The African continent has made great progress in trying to protect women's rights, and in particular, access to abortion as a fundamental right. We cannot forget that Africa is the only continent with a regional human rights framework, that is the Maputo Protocol, that recognizes abortion as a fundamental human right. The challenge then is the translation of that commitment into practical lived realities in the country. And what is fueling that challenge includes opposition by religious groups, unwillingness of governments based on various issues, including stigma, opposition by religious groups, social extraction, refusal to accept abortion as an issue of, as a fundamental right, a question of liberty, a question of privacy, a question of autonomy, a question of dignity of the woman.
But is it also not true to say that in Africa, there's still this conservative position where it comes to, practices like abortion? As you've mentioned already, that there's pressure from religious groups and governments. And what is the basis and the genesis of that you can, see as to, first of all, if it's going to be reversed, how?
One, we must look at healthcare comprehensively so that we provide all nationals of the continent, women, girls, men, children, with comprehensive healthcare. Abortion should be treated as part and parcel of comprehensive healthcare. Information, comprehensive sexuality education should be the beginning point. We need to protect access to healthcare, especially in instances where it is highly stigmatized like abortion. We need to protect that access in law, in policy, so that the practice becomes part and parcel of implementation of our legal framework.
It's time for another break. When we come back, we'll take a historical perspective at how slavery figures into the U.S. abortion battle by examining how critics say the U.S. Supreme Court walked past crucial post-Civil War amendments. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. It is time now for our Uncommon Voices segment, where we bring you historical perspectives that you may not be aware of in regard to the U.S. abortion debate and how it has ties to the U.S. Supreme Court ruling at the end of slavery. For half a century, U.S. abortion rights were rooted in the Constitution's 14th Amendment, passed after the Civil Rights War to guarantee equal rights to all after slavery. Now that the U.S. Supreme Court reversed abortion rights, critics say women once again may be forced to reproduce, as were slaves. VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias examines the argument. We warn you that this piece contains graphic images and viewer discretion is advised.
Ending the forced labor of Black people wasn't the only aim of the U.S. Constitution's 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in 1865. Congress also wanted to stop the brutal abuses forced on enslaved women, says Michelle Goodwin, a constitutional law expert at the University of California, Irvine.
It was very well understood and, in fact, debated and articulated by members of the Senate who led the campaign for the 13th Amendment, that they were abolishing Black women's involuntary reproductive servitude, where they were forced to bear children that they did not want, always or most often under the conditions of sexual assault and rape.
The 14th Amendment took freedom a step further in 1868, mandating equal protection under the law for all. And in 1973, that 14th Amendment promise became the legal foundation for abortion rights. Until last month, when a conservative majority on the U.S. Supreme Court overturned it. Justice Samuel Alito wrote that, quote, "A right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions." In fact, abortion was illegal in most states when the 14th Amendment passed, Alito said.
My body, my choice.
Critics say that ignores the bitter lessons from slavery and the disparities that exist across states.
I look at a state like Mississippi where the Supreme Court took this decision. 80% of the cardiac deaths during pregnancy are to Black women.
The court's ruling upheld a Mississippi ban on abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Now, states can set their own rules. Abortion rights advocates say that states with high poverty and minority populations have the most to lose. Women could be forced to carry an unwanted pregnancy to term or be prosecuted for traveling to a state where abortion is legal. Mississippi is surrounded by states that ban or will soon ban abortion.
We don't have equal rights in this country. We need to be very clear on that. There are some states that are talking about now they want to prosecute and criminalize people for taking someone out of state and for talking about, self-managing abortion. This is about oppression. This is about misogyny.
Anti-abortion activists are cheering the court's embrace of states' rights. In Texas, the law now prohibits abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Later this month, that will change to a ban on all abortions except to save a mother's life. Roe v. Wade opponents say the Supreme Court finally got it right by throwing out the case that for nearly 50 years protected abortion under the 14th Amendment.
Abortion is not found anywhere in the text of the Constitution, and so the Supreme Court correctly found that in Roe versus Wade, it had gotten it wrong, and it correctly overturned Roe versus Wade and sent this very important, very divisive issue back to the people's elected representatives.
U.S. President Joe Biden signed an order to protect abortion access, including by medication. After that, it's on to the congressional elections in November, where abortion will be front and center. Veronica Valderas Iglesias for VOA News, Washington.
That's all for this week's show. We'd like to thank our guests, Ann Kyoko of Citizen Go, and also Martin Onyango of Center for Reproductive Rights. Thank you to both for joining us. Also, if you would like more information on today's programs, please visit our website at voaafrica.com. On behalf of Our Voices colleagues and everyone at the Voice of America, I'm Dimyake Mwakaliele saying thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Till next time.